Hey everyone, this is Chiwei from One Dog Wolf, and in this video I'm going to show you how to crochet a heart and then turn that heart into a conversation heart keychain so that you have eyes on one side and then a little message on the other. For this project you're going to need yarn. This is a cotton Aran, so it's lightweight but has great stitch definition from Pink Box Yarns. I have a size 3.75 or size F crochet hook, scissors. I have a little bit of bright pink yarn for the lettering. You can also use embroidery thread for this. I've got some black embroidery thread or very thin yarn for the face. Safety eyes, I have some cluster stuffing and 3 different sizes of needles that we're going to be using for different purposes throughout the project. Okay, let's start with the heart applique. It's going to be helpful if you have the written pattern in front of you so you can follow along as I work. So we're going to start with a magic circle. Okay, tighten that stitch down. Now we're going to chain 2 and then work 3 half double crochets into this magic circle. And then we'll work 3 double crochets. This first round is worked into the magic circle. So we've worked 3 half double crochets and then 3 double crochets. And then from here we're going to chain 2 and then work a slip stitch into the side of the double crochet. And keep the slip stitch pretty loose. Right? And then the next stitch will be a slip stitch into the magic circle. So this is the top of our heart. Okay, from here we'll chain 3 and then we'll work the other side of the heart, which is 3 double crochets, and then 3 half double crochets. And then we're going to slip stitch into the first half double crochet. The chains at the very beginning do not count as stitches. And we're going to join with a slip stitch. Okay, and I'm going to pull the center tight, but not all the way tight yet. I'm going to leave a little bit of a hole because we're going to be working into that center again on the next round. So for round 2, we'll chain 2, and then we'll work 2 half double crochets into the same stitch as the join. So into that one right there. Okay, and now we'll work according to the pattern 1 half double crochet in each of the next 2 stitches, and then 2 half double crochets in this stitch, 2 in the next, and then 3 in this last double crochet from the previous round. So 3 half double crochets here. Okay, and now we're going to work 2 single crochets into the first chain from the previous round. So this was our last double crochet from the previous round, and then remember we worked 2 chain stitches and then we worked a slip stitch into the side of that double crochet. So we're going to find the first chain, which is this guy right here, and we're going to work into that. It's a little bit tight, so if you remember on your second heart, you can remember to keep this chain a little bit looser. So I have to wiggle my way through a little bit, okay, to pull up a loop. So that's one single crochet and then 2 single crochet. Okay, then the instructions say to chain 1, you're going to skip that second chain, and then you're going to skip that slip stitch, and then you will slip stitch directly into the center of the magic circle again. And this one you kind of have to pull tight. Always keep this active yarn tight so you don't have too loose of a slip stitch. Okay, and then you're going to chain 1, and then again you will skip 2. So we skip this guy, the first chain, the second chain, and then we're going to work 2 single crochets into this third chain right here. And you'll notice that there's a bit of a gap here, but that's okay because once you pull the magic circle tight, all of that will disappear. And then from here, we're going to work 3 half double crochets into this stitch. And this is kind of a mirror image of what we did on this other side, on the first side. And then we will join to the first half double crochet again with a slip stitch. So our heart's upside down, but you can see the shape of it already. Now for round 3, we're going to chain 2, work 2 half double crochets into the same stitch as the join, and then follow the pattern around. Okay, so that was all of our half double crochets. And now we're going to work 1 single crochet into the next stitch. Right? We're going to skip this one right here. And then we're going to work into the center again, but we're not going to work directly into the magic circle. We're going to work into that slip stitch that we created earlier on the last round. So it's that stitch right there. And we're going to slip stitch this stitch. Right? And then we're going to skip this next one. It's really small. This was the chain stitch from the previous round, and it's a little bit tight, but you can see it right here. We're going to skip that, and then we're going to work a single crochet into the next one. All right, and then we'll follow the pattern here with the half double crochets. All right, and in the last stitch we'll work 2 half double crochets. And then again we'll join to the first half double crochet with a slip stitch. So this is our heart flat. Okay, so I'm going to show you here. This is our heart, and then we can close off the center by pulling on the beginning tail. There you go. And then you'll want to secure this by tying a knot in the back as well. So if you only wanted a heart applique, this is where you can stop. You can fasten off right here and then just use this however you want, whether you want to sew it to a shirt or a book bag, but we're going to continue and make this 3D. So I'm going to turn it back around, upside down. Now I'm going to chain 1, And then for this next round, I'm going to work in the back loops of every stitch around. Okay, and I'm going to have the same number of stitches, but I'm going to skip one in the center and I'm going to add one right here. So this stitch right here is the chain 2, and normally this would be the half double crochet would be our last stitch, and we would skip this last one. But in this case, I'm actually going to work into this last stitch because I'm skipping a tiny little stitch right here. So I've chained one, and I'm going to work into the back loops of every stitch. Okay, and it always gets a little bit tricky here, so I'm going to work into these stitches that are very visible right here. Okay, I'm going to work into that very center stitch. It's small, but we can get the hook into the back loop only of that stitch. Right, and then there's actually a stitch right there at the very bottom, but we're not going to work into that. That's the tiny one that we're going to skip, this one right here, and we're going to work directly into the next one. So by skipping that, we're going to be messing up our count, which is why we'll be adding another stitch at the very end. Okay, so this is normally our last stitch, but because we skipped one earlier on, we're going to actually work into this stitch right here. And I find that this gives us a little bit more of a defined point at the bottom of the heart, which is a good thing. Okay, and then we joined with a slip stitch. And you can see by working into the back loop, we've given ourselves a little bit of a shape to the heart. Right? And now we're going to chain one and work one single crochet into every stitch around. And you can see here, it's the rows are starting to, the rounds are starting to flatten out a bit, but you can see there are 3 that are fairly centered in the middle, and that's going to come into play when we sew the 2 sides of the heart together. Okay, so we've completed this round. We're going to join the round, and we are done with one side of the heart. Now that we've completed one heart, we are going to make another one, but on this one, before we fasten off, we're going to cut a long tail so that we can use the tail to sew the 2 ends together. Okay, and I like to measure approximately 3 times the circumference of what I need to sew, and that's how I kind of guesstimate at how long the tail is. Sometimes it's also easy just to measure about 18 inches to 2 feet for this size amigurumi, and that seems to work fine as well. Okay, so I'm still here with my hook, and I'm going to fasten off. Right, so I have my heart. I'm going to go ahead and secure the magic circle by tying a knot here and then leaving this yarn. And I had already created a second one, so now we have 2 hearts, both with some depth to it. And what we're going to do is we're going to sew it together like this, like a little box. But before we do that, we'll want to add a face and then add your little message. Face on one side, the message on the other. Okay, now that we have our 2 hearts, the next step is to decorate them. I know that one side has to have words and the other side is a face. And what I like to do is put the words on the side where the end is completely fastened off, because I'll be embroidering and I don't like having an extra tail get in the way. So for the one with the extra long tail, I'm going to be adding my amigurumi face. And then with the one, you know, on this heart, I had a tail, but then I just completely fastened it off on the inside. This is the one that I'm going to be embroidering my little conversation words on. So let's work on this one first. Let's get the eyes on. I have safety eyes, and I want to place the eyes about halfway down the heart and about 1 to 1 1/4 inches apart. And because we used half double crochets, there are some larger holes in your stitching. You want to make sure that you put the eyes into a smaller hole and not into these big gaps, because you don't want the safety eye to actually come apart. So if I chose here, then I'm going to go across, and instead of choosing the gap between stitches, I'm actually going to go right in the middle of a half double crochet stitch, which is a little bit of a tighter fit. Okay. And then if we wanted to measure, we can take a look, and it's about, if you start from the center of the eyes, it's about just under 1 1/4 inches. All right, and then we take the backings and secure the eyes. Okay, now that we have the eyes, we're going to take our piece of black embroidery thread and our medium-sized needle. So here's our embroidery thread. I also like using, if you don't have embroidery thread, you can also take a piece of yarn and split the plies just so that it's a little bit thinner. And then we'll make a quick little face here. Okay, so now you have a little smile. And then on the back, I like to just tie them together, tie the two ends together. Okay, so that's your face, and that is one side of your conversation heart. Now this other side is a lot harder than the one with the face. I'm going to take some bright pink yarn. This is actually the same yarn, except I've split the plies. So normally this yarn has 8 plies in it, and I split it into 2. So this one is only 4, which means it's half as thick as the yarn used to create the heart. It's harder to get detail with thick yarn, and then if you go too fine, it's hard to see. And if you think about a conversation heart, sometimes the letters are a little bit blurry, so that gives you a little bit of leeway. It doesn't have to be perfect on the heart, and I found that half the width of what you use for the heart seems to work really well for the letters. And for this one, I had used a medium-sized needle for the mouth, but I'm going to actually use an even thinner needle for the letters to give myself a little more precision. Okay, and I think I'm going to write "love you" on this heart, and "love you" should go, it actually works really well with the shape of the heart. So I'm going to write "love" across the middle, and then "you" right down here at the bottom. And I think I might do the "U" first, just to help me center everything. And then I know that the L and the O go on one side of the U, and then the V and the E go on the other side of the U. Okay. A couple things to note as I'm working on the embroidery. I cut about a 2-foot length of the yarn that I want to use for the embroidery. You can cut it a little bit shorter, but I like to try to get all my letters done in one shot. Sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. And then for my letters, I normally just do the embroidery back stitch. And you never want to work into a big gap. You always want to work right into the center of a stitch. Okay, so this is, I'm working on the U right here, and I'm just kind of envisioning in my head that it's going to go around and it's going to go right back up. Okay, so the yarn is on the back, and I have to start my curve. Okay, so I've completed my embroidery. This is a pretty complicated part of the project. If you are uncomfortable with the embroidery, you can look into using fabric paint and painting the numbers on with the little squeeze tubes. So that might help as well if you choose not to do the embroidery. So now we have the two sides and we're ready to sew them together. There's 3 stitches here that correspond to the center of the heart. So that's 1, 2, 3. And then on this side, there's 3 stitches that correspond to the center of the heart. And you want these 3 stitches to line up. So you can choose to use stitch markers if you like, however you like to do it, to line up the center of the heart and then count backwards to know where you're going to start the mattress stitch. So I'm going to just kind of eyeball it, and it's going to be, I'll use a larger needle, just eyeball, this is the center stitch, and then over here this is the center stitch. Right, so if I had a stitch marker, I would stitch those, I would hold those together, and then I'm going to line up my stitches. Okay, so now I know that I'm right here, this is where my tail is, and I'm going to be working into this stitch, which is just one off from the center of the other heart. So we'll be right here, and we'll work the mattress stitch, which is, then you insert the needle from inside to out of the next stitch, and you'll just continue zigzagging your way all the way around. Okay, so once I get a couple stitches done, I like to pull everything tight. And then it makes it a pretty seamless stitch. And once you've started, you don't need that marker anymore. Okay, so the next stitch that we would work into is part of this set of 3, right? These 3 are the middle where this divot is on the heart. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull all 3 of these together. I'm not going to work mattress stitches over the 3. I'm going to skip 1. So I'm going to pull here, and then I'm going to skip 1. This is this very center one, and I'm going to go, I'm already on the outside, I'm not going to go into the other side of the other heart. I'm going to stick to this side of the heart and work from outside in, skipping 1 stitch, because I want to pull it together to create that divot. And then I'm going to cross back into these 3. These are the 3 on the other side, 1, 2, 3, and I'm going to work the mattress stitch into this first one, and then from the outside in, skipping the one in the middle, outside in here, and then work into the next. Okay, and then that's how you work the 3 stitches. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, and now because this was the last one that we had used, I'm going to move on to the next one and go back to using the mattress stitch. And then you can see that's where it was connected. So then I'm going to work into this one, this stitch, on my next mattress stitch. Okay, and now I'm going to pull this whole thing tight. And it gives us a little bit of that tightness at the top of the heart to help with the look of this divot. Okay, and now we just mattress stitch to the end. Well, We mattress stitch not quite to the end because we have to stuff it. You can start stuffing anytime you'd like. I like to close this up pretty tight before I start stuffing because I don't like working mattress stitches over the stuffing and having my needle get caught in it. So I'm going to do a few more. I'm going to tighten. Okay. So there's a little bit of a hole. I'm going to grab some cluster stuffing. This is all very loose and is great for small projects. And I'm just going to stuff a bit into the heart. For a project like this, because the shape is really important, I recommend not overstuffing it. You don't want it to turn into a complete ball. You want it just so that you can feel that there's something inside and that you can fill out the shape without overstuffing. And then I'm going to finish mattress stitches to close off this opening. And then I like to go right back into my first stitch just to make sure that the end is closed and that there's no further gaps at the bottom. And then I'm going to take my end, just find a place to tie a knot. I just found a loop. I'm going to tie a knot here. Okay, so I tied a knot. And then I'm going to take my needle, insert it right into that knot, and then bring it back out along the side. And then you'll see that that pulls, it'll pull the knot in, so it's less visible. So your heart is complete. You can leave it like this if you just want to use it as a toy. You have the letters on one side, got a face on the other. If you want to make it into a keychain, I have these ball chain links. I don't really know what these are called. And I'm going to feed it through the top, right through this divot that we created. So I'm going to take my largest needle. This is a full-size tapestry needle. And I'm going to try to find that hole where it would go. It looks like that's it. And then just kind of use this to use the needle to stretch out that hole so you can kind of see through it. Okay, and just stretch that out, and then you take this ball chain and I push the needle through where the clasp is, and I'm going to use this to help give a little oomph to push the clasp through the hole. Right. So I'm going to hold on like that, and then I'm going to see that hole that I had tried to open up a little bit. And you can see I can use the needle to push the clasp through. So you can create these hearts in different colors with different messages on them. And give it to your favorite people. I hope you enjoyed this video. I'd love for you to like this video and share it with your friends or follow me on YouTube. Thanks so much.